is what we're doing today the right thing that we're doing? Should we keep at it or should we change direction? That's why we started developing that new software.
Fernando, thank you so much for being with us today. Really excited to learn more about, what you've been up to with JML Group in Japan. Could you maybe just start by letting us know a little bit about yourself and the group and what you've been up to?
The official corporate name is just JML. The reason why we call it group is actually because we're doing multiple things within the group. Yeah. And it made it easier for us to really make clear that we're doing different kind of services. So we have an IT department, we have really a focus an e-commerce department, and we also have a market entry department, basically.
And you're based in Fukuoka? Is that yeah? And why Fukuoka? What was the reason for going down there?
The reason why we chose Fukuoka is because I happened to study there before I incorporated.
Makes it a bit easier.
Yeah, and I really fell in love with Fukuoka city. Like, unlike Tokyo, it's a little bit slower.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more compact. The community is a little bit tighter. Really allows you to disconnect from work. I do enjoy being here in Tokyo, but God, I'm glad when I get back.
Yeah. What were some of the things, I guess, that you started with? What were some of the challenges, I guess, especially setting up in Japan from, a business standpoint? It's not that easy, right? Sometimes.
The other truth, the reason why I started JML in the first place is because I had difficulty connecting with the Japanese work lifestyle, the corporate culture, the long hours, and the hierarchy and how everything went over there. It just didn't connect with me.
Yeah.
I enjoy living in Japan. I even enjoy working with Japanese, but inside of the Japanese corporate structure, it just didn't really fit to me.
Yeah.
So that's primary reason why I started with JML. And honestly, the people that I started working with that also joined JML, they came basically to me for the same reasons. Like, we want to escape from the corporate culture where we're trapped in right now.
Yeah.
And you can deliver us a way out of there, then we'll take it both hands. That's basically the core principle of why people want to join JML. They like what we stand for, like what JML stands for, not just the corporate culture within the company, but also what we do. They see an opportunity to really help people and develop new skills. And I really value that. When people start working with JML, I don't really look for experience, looking for passion.
As you mentioned, you said it's all about that passion, and they don't have to be potentially the top of their game, but they'll learn that through obviously the business and some of the opportunities. So maybe talk us a little bit more about the structure and setup of JML, and obviously as a Dutch-based entrepreneur, how you built those frameworks potentially, or what was the sort of the basis or the starting point for the business and how you've evolved it over the last few years?
For us, it's really a learning journey. And I mean that when I say we have been evolving our business from day one.
Do you think there's a different pace in the way that Japan businesses evolve historically? Do you think the entrepreneur side of things are getting a more advantageous kind of, leg up on these older, bigger firms? Do you think there's sort of a positive change in the way that, for example, the business that you've set up in that way is getting that traction, getting that speed in the market, beyond just where maybe some of these other bigger companies are sort of playing in and have been playing in?
This is maybe just from my perspective, but these bigger firms have positioned themselves in such a way that they control how things are going and how fast things are evolving. So the only way for a small firm like mine to actually be able to keep competing with them and not become immediately from the very start completely dependent on them, because that's what we see a lot. A lot of these small firms are actually depending on those bigger firms. They all work with the bigger firms. We all do business with them. I do business with them because without them, you wouldn't have the capacity to actually distribute. And so actually some of the bigger players on the market as well, and I'm trying to avoid common names. When you want to sell to one of the big retailers, for example, is you go to that meeting and you think oh, we're going to sell to them. But then to that same meeting, another person shows up oh, these are from that firm. You need to sell to them.
Okay.
And then we buy from them. Okay. So I buy them from overseas. I sell to these guys, and these guys sell to the retailer. Yeah. So there's no way around them. That's how tight that relationship is. And small businesses just can't get between in there. Yeah. So you need to get very creative to still find a way to compete with those bigger firms.
Tell us a bit more about like what the team structure is, and have you got some rock stars that are really good at doing that, like dealing with these types of situations? Like, do you just push them in front, or do you have to do a lot of the heavy lifting as well? Is it a mix? Tell us a little bit more about that process.
For example, I'm not a great sales guy. I know I'm not a great sales guy. So I'm not going to tell our head of sales, for example, how he has to do sales. I'm not going to tell him what the best strategy is. I join them on like sales meetings, and because I do need to know as the president of the company, I do need to know what is going on within my company. And actually, I've been getting to understand more and more. I've been learning a lot of new skills, and the better I understand what they are doing and how they're doing it and why they're doing it, it becomes easier for me to explain to others what my business actually does. We invent new things every single time. We're working on a new project, for example, a software project. And yeah, I was able to work with a couple of, to build my own websites. So I have that tech side on me, but I didn't know how coding worked or what the structure of software was. And I've been getting my hands on it. I've become hands-on with that. I started really helping with the development of our new software. And now I actually start to understand like really what it takes for us to grow this software, to build the software. But at first I was like, is it done yet? I had expectations that I now realize that weren't realistic. And the IT guy who just wasn't very good at explaining that. Yeah. And what the difficulties that he was experiencing, because I do know like how to build a WordPress website, but I don't know how to build a software system. Yeah. And now I really got into it. I'm like, okay, so this works with that and that works with that, and it takes so much time, and this is not working because that is not working yet. Yeah. And you can't get this going because but that really helps me understand like what it's going to take to scale the software and why it takes so much time. It also helps me with setting realistic expectations and not selling something that I don't think is realistic. And it also, of course, helped me with coordinating with my team. Like, yeah, this is the realistic expectation, how this is going to be. So this is how we should deal with it. Yep. So I can make better strategic decisions with that knowledge.
That's part of the whole sort of, I guess, that culture and that team kind of, collaboration and the spirit around what you guys do. Any lessons that you learn along the way, and anything you've seen that's been really surprising in ways that you weren't expecting, I guess.
But when I'm talking about the successes, I think the greatest success of my team, of JML, is general building the team that I have. The people that are, I would almost say, like loyal to the company. They're really supportive. They're really passionate about what they're doing. And we had a lot of difficulties along the way. It's been almost 5 years now operating JML. And we had a lot of setbacks. So when we have a setback, I take full responsibility for it. I never blame the team for that, because the setbacks that we have, I think that's a combination of current situations, but also part of the decisions that I have made. Mm-hmm. It's my responsibility as a president to position the company in a certain way and to work with certain partners. And if those partners turn out not to be reliable or trustworthy, then that was a mistake of my judgment. So I would not blame my team members for any of those failures, because like in the end, they always ask me like, do you want to work with these guys? Do we want to sign this contract? And I make the final decision on that. Yeah. So ultimately, I'm always responsible. And I also can take credit, of course, for the successes. But most of all, and most importantly, I also take responsibility for every failure that we have. Yeah. Every setback that we have had.
That's amazing. I mean, that's really, I guess, from where I've been and experience around different entrepreneurs and businesses and companies, big and small, like, because for you to put everything on the table and make you the sole responsible individuals, it's pretty big. And I guess that would echo a lot of sentiment to the team as well. Right? That builds a lot of respect and trust.
So it's helps me reflect on what we're doing.
Yeah.
Is what we're doing today the right thing that we're doing? Should we keep at it or should we change direction? That's why we started developing that new software, because I was looking at the path that we're taking and I'm like, well, this is not the most efficient route that is available. Of course, things change. That also helps. For example, now we are entering a new era of AI, right? So there are a lot of things that I think that can go better, more efficient. I really enjoy that. Making things more efficient, making things better, learning from our mistakes. If you don't keep making the same mistakes over, and then if you're like, well, as long as we keep making money, it's fine. For me, that's not fine. I really want to get rid of those mistakes. I really want to optimize for success. The biggest difference between us and a big company is not resources, but flexibility.
Yeah.
I can change my mind overnight, and change the company overnight.
Yes. Yeah.
That's something that a big firm name would never be able to do, to change the entire business concept overnight.
Yeah.
I have this flexibility, and I should definitely take advantage of that.
Have you seen that in sort of the last few cases, that you've actually seen that become something that's unique to what you guys have been developing? For example, like your speed to change or your speed to kind of like evolve or pivot when you need to, right? So has that been something that you've grown to build, or is that something that's more recent in what the company sort of had to sort of develop that approach?
This has actually been our attitude from day one. Yeah. So we started as a regular cheese import company, because let's be honest, I'm Dutch, and I'm like, what is my advantage? I know a lot of cheese farmers in the Netherlands, and I have a broad network in the Netherlands. We started like, okay, well, this will be a little bit more difficult, and finding buyers were right. So we're like, you know what? Let's start with making our own first buyer. So we started with e-commerce. We developed Cookset Supply, and if I ask, oh, is somebody already buying? We're like, well, it's already been sold here, and then we point to the website that we make. And they're different. It says on the website that it's done by us, in tiny letters.
And that's the entrepreneurial.
That was something that we started developing already in our first year.
Yeah.
In the second year, we discovered also, like, with Corona raging, that business was slow and we were already getting initial trouble.
Yeah.
We built that website. We built that e-commerce website from scratch. It was great. And we're like, we can sell this skill as well. We started pivoting, really developing this seriously, and we gave the name RCN-T, Regulation Compliance Notification Tools. We started combining that IT side from our company with the more traditional regulation, law, consulting, and market entry business. These are firms, they have the resources to make this years ago.
Yes.
But there is no incentive for them to do it, because as long as this is a difficult, bulky, slow process, which is very expensive for small companies, this keeps the competition of the market.
Which brings me to, you're going to receive an award from the Netherlands Chamber of Commerce based on, I think, that all of that sort of work you've done in the last 5 years with the company.
I made it a patient to it because I want to get the RCN-T system in the spotlight. I want to give it the opportunity, to prove itself.
Yeah.
And they work.
For other people getting into the market, or here, who are entrepreneurs who are even thinking about starting?
I always am vocal ambassador of Fukuoka. There's two reasons for that. Well, first of all, I'm in Fukuoka, so the more business we get to Fukuoka, the easier it becomes for me. Fukuoka is a small city. It's definitely not a heavyweight like Tokyo. I've been struggling a lot, especially during the early days. I find a lot of connections, and a lot of my business comes from Tokyo. The language barrier is far more present in Fukuoka as well. Yes, one of the reasons why I speak Japanese. So a lot of our partners in Fukuoka also just speak Japanese, and I just do business with them in Japanese. Yes. And this helped me actually building stronger relationships, because when I come to Tokyo and I speak Japanese, it opens a lot of doors to me that otherwise wouldn't have been possible. That gaijin that came from Fukuoka that speaks Japanese, that's a rare sight.
So he's got a established, successful business, in this industry as well. So plus.
It definitely helps in that kind of way. But at the end of the day, like, running a business, and I think this is not being emphasized often enough, running a business is very expensive.
Mm.
And it takes a lot of time to build that business. When you look at the business visa, the bare minimum of 5 million, actually it's very understandable to me that why that's 5 million. Because as a fully operating company, you can easily burn to 1 million in a month.
But just sort of lastly, in just in closing, what's next for JML and how can people find out more about what you guys have been up to?
Well, like I said, our primary focus for now is the RCN-T software system. Absolutely, that's our primary focus. We really think that's the biggest opportunity for us. It's also a very expensive vendor for door. Just the software development engineers are also very expensive, of course. The R&D that goes along with it is a very expensive process. Very time consuming. This is going to take at least 2 years for us to fully develop it. So this is what we're going to be focusing on. We're still doing the other services that we do because those are the prize winners for now. But that's the future of JML.
Yeah,
absolutely. And you can find out more about it on our websites. You can actually start trying out tools over there.
Okay, fantastic. Awesome. Thank you so much. It was great to chat today. Can't wait to hear more about the award.
The award goes to the JML Group. Fernando Lira.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Cheers.
For more stories with the right vibe, follow, like, subscribe.